are the group members: Casey Ann Emeterio, Victor Angelo Castro, Lester Franco, Aaron John De Vera, Jan Anthony Tabajen, Reyna Linduldulao, and Aaron Bravo.
Magandang araw po. So ngayon, pag-uusapan natin ang tungkol sa hydroelectric power plant or mas kilala natin bilang hydropower. So paano nga ba ito nagwo-work? Ang basic idea lang nito ay gumagamit tayo ng flowing or falling water para makagawa ng kuryente. Imagine nyo na lang, yung tubig galing sa taas ay babangga siya pababa dahil sa gravity, like sa dam. Ngayon, habang bumabagsak yung tubig, meron itong kinetic energy. Yung energy na yan ay ginagamit para paikotin yung turbine. So, yung turbine, kino-convert niya yung energy ng tubig into mechanical energy. After nun, may generator na nakakabit sa turbine. Ito naman yung nagko-convert ng mechanical energy into electrical energy, which is yung kuryente na ginagamit natin sa bahay. So in short, water, turbine, generator, electricity. Ganun lang kasimple yung concept niya.
As we continue, let's take a closer look at some of the largest hydroelectric power plants in the world and understand what makes them so significant in the electrical engineering and energy production. At the top of the list is the Three Gorges Dam in China. Built along the Yangtze River with an installed capacity of 22,500 megawatts. It is currently the largest hydroelectric power plant in the world. This massive facility plays a crucial role not only in power generation but also in flood control and navigation. From an engineering perspective, it demonstrates how large-scale energy system can stabilize national power grids. Next is the Itaipu Dam, located in the Brazil and Paraguay of the Paraná River. It has an installed capacity of 14,000 megawatts. What makes Itaipu remarkable is its bi-national operation, supplying large portion of electricity to both countries. This highlights the importance of international cooperation in energy infrastructure. Another major contributor is the Shiluodu Dam, also in China, built on the Jinsha River with a capacity of 13,860 megawatts. It is part of a cascade system of dams which is an efficient way to maximize energy extraction from a single river system. Moving to South America, we have the Bayo Monte Dam on the Xingu River. Has a capacity of 11,233 megawatts. While it contributes significantly to the Brazil's power supply, it also shows the environmental and social challenges engineers must consider, such as ecosystem disruption and displacement of communities. Another notable plant is the Guri Dam in Venezuela, located in the Caroni River, generating over 10,000 megawatts. It has been a backbone to the Venezuela's electricity for decades, demonstrating long-term reliability of hydroelectric systems. Looking at the next set of the Tucuruí Dam on the Tocantins River produces 8,370 megawatts, supporting both industrial and residential loads. Now in the United States, we also have the Grand Coulee Dam on the Columbia River. It has a capacity of 6,809 megawatts. Aside from power generation, it's also a vital for the irrigation system of the United States, showing how hydroelectric plants can serve multiple engineering purposes. China continues to dominate with the Xiangjiaba Dam and Longtan Dam producing 6,444 and 6,426 megawatts respectively. These plants emphasize the country's long-term investment on renewable energy infrastructure. Finally, the Sayano-Shushenskaya Dam in Russia generates about 6,400 megawatts, making it one of the largest in Russia. From an electrical engineering standpoint, these power plants highlight key concepts such as large-scale energy conversion, grid stability, load distribution, and renewable energy integration. They also show how hydroelectric power remains one of the most reliable and efficient renewable energy sources available today.
Ngayon naman, pag-usapan natin ang isa sa pinakamalaking hydropower dito sa Pilipinas, ang Magat Dam. Ang Magat Hydroelectric Power Plant ay isa sa pinakamalaking hydro facilities sa Luzon with a maximum output na 380 megawatts. Na-start ang construction nito noong 1975 at natapos noong 1982. Hindi lang siya for power generation, multi-purpose dam siya. Ibig sabihin, ginagamit din ito for irrigation na tumutulong sa humigit kumulang 85,000 hectares ng agricultural land. Malaking tulong ito lalo na sa mga farmers. Located ito sa boundaries ng Ifugao at Isabela, especially sa areas ng Alfonso Lista at Ramon. Additional info lang, so kahit malaki na ang Magat Dam, hindi pa rin ito ang pinakamalaki overall sa Pilipinas. For example, ang Ilijan Combined Cycle Power Plant at Sual Power Station ay may mas mataas na capacity around 1,200 megawatts and globally, sobrang laki ng Three Gorges Dam with a capacity of 22,500 megawatts. So overall, ang hydropower ay isang renewable, reliable at environmentally friendly na source ng energy, lalo na sa bansang tulad ng Pilipinas na maraming rivers at dams.
Ang hydroelectric power plant ay isang paraan ng pag-produce ng kuryente gamit ang lakas ng tubig. Sa process na ito, may 4 na pangunahing bahagi: ang dam, intake, turbine, at generator. Una, meron tayong dam. Ang dam ay isang malaking structure na humaharang sa tubig para makabuo ng reservoir o imbakan ng tubig. Dito na naiipon ang napakaraming tubig sa isang lugar. Habang tumataas ang level ng tubig, tumataas din ang potential energy nito. So, ibig sabihin, mas maraming energy ang pwedeng makuha kapag pinapakawalan na yung tubig. Sunod naman ay ang intake. Dito binubuksan ang gates ng dam para payagan ng tubig na dumaloy. Dahil sa gravity, kusa itong bumababa papunta sa penstock, na isang malaking tubo na nagdadala ng tubig papunta sa turbine. Habang dumadaloy ang tubig sa penstock, tumataas naman ang pressure at bilis nito. So, from stored energy, nagiging kinetic energy na siya. So, pagdating ng tubig sa turbine, dito na papasok ang turbine. Ang turbine ay parang malaking fan o blade na iniikot ng malakas na daloy ng tubig. Kapag tinamaan ng turbine ng blades, umiikot ito. Ang pag-ikot na ito ay mahalaga dahil ito ang mechanical energy na gagamitin para makagawa ng kuryente. Ngayon, nakakabit ang turbine sa generator sa pamamagitan ng shaft. Habang umiikot ang turbine, umiikot din ang generator. So, sa loob ng generator, may mga magnets at copper coils. Kapag umiikot ang magnet sa loob, dumadaan ito sa coils at nagkakaroon ng movement ng electrons. Ito ang proseso na tinatawag na electromagnetic induction. Dahil dito, napoproduce ng alternating current na siyang natin sa mga bahay at sa industriya. So, basically, ang flow ay tubig, magkakaroon ng movement, iikot ang turbine, iikot ang generator, at makapag-produce ng kuryente. So, sa kabuuan, ang hydroelectric power plant ay nagko-convert ng potential energy ng tubig into electrical energy. Simple lang ang concept pero napaka-effective nito, lalo na sa mga lugar na maraming supply ng tubig. At ang maganda pa dito, renewable siya at mas environmental friendly kumpara sa fossil fuels. So, sa continuation ng operation ng isang hydroelectric power plant, after makagawa ng kuryente sa generator, may tatlo pa itong bahagi, ang transformer, power lines, at outflow. Una, pag-usapan natin ang transformer. Ang kuryente na galing sa generator ay nasa form ng alternating current o AC. Pero kadalasan mababa pa ang voltage nito. Hindi ito efficient para sa mga long-distance transmission dahil malaki ang power loss. Kaya ang transformer ang nagtataas ng voltage ng kuryente. Sa madaling salita, kino-convert nito ang low voltage AC into high voltage AC para mas efficient itong maipadala sa malalayong lugar. So, habang tumataas ang voltage, bumababa ang current. Kaya nababawasan ng energy losses sa transmission lines. So, sunod naman ay ang power lines. Ito yung mga linya ng kuryente na nakikita natin sa mga poste at transmission towers. Dito dumadaan ang kuryente papunta sa iba't ibang lugar tulad ng bahay, paaralan at industriya. Kadalasan, ang system ay gumagamit ng 3-phase power. Ibig sabihin ng tatlong linya ang sabay-sabay nagdadala ng kuryente kasama ang isang neutral line. Ang setup na ito ay mas stable at efficient para sa distribution ng kuryente. Panghuli naman ay yung outflow. Matapos gamitin ng tubig para paikutin ng turbine, hindi ito nasasayang. Ang tubig ay dumadaan sa mga pipeline na tinatawag na tail race at bumabalik sa ilog sa downstream. Ibig sabihin, tuloy-tuloy ang cycle ng tubig sa kalikasan. So, sa kabuuan, ang prosesong ito ay ipapakita kung paano ang energy mula sa tubig ay nagiging usable electricity at papadala sa mga consumers habang ang tubig ay patuloy na umiikot sa natural cycle.
Let's now proceed with the hydroelectric power plant working principle. Let's think of this power plant as a large machine capable of a simple conversion. Our goal was to create energy using our environment, specifically from rivers, streams, or estuaries. Sa madaling salita, hydroelectric power plants are capable of transforming simple flow of water into electricity. Dito sa unang overview diagram, makikita natin ang basic structure mula sa reservoir hanggang sa power lines. Pero for us to understand the step-by-step process better, let's move on to a more detailed diagram. Everything starts here at the reservoir. Dito naiipon ang napakaraming tubig sa likod ng dam. Itong nakaimbak na tubig ay puno ng tinatawag ng potential energy. The higher the water level, the greater the pressure and the more potential energy it has. In order to generate electricity, an intake was being opened. But wait, before that water enters, notice the trash rack. This is a very important part as this large metal screen acts like a filter to prevent big debris like for example logs, trashes, etc. na pumasok at masira ang internal machines. Trash rack ensures only clean water enters. Next to the rack is the control gate. Think of it as the ultimate flow control button. Ito ang pinto na nagsasara at nagbubukas para payagan o pigilan ang tubig na pumasok sa planta. Once the control gate is open, the water plunges down. So basically, water travels through this massive pipe called the penstock. This is so critical. Why? Because as the water falls, the high pressure transforms that stored potential energy into powerful kinetic energy, or energy of motion. The penstock is specifically created to narrow slightly, increasing the velocity and force of the water right before it hits its target. This powerful rush of water is what will drive the entire system. Now let's proceed with the energy conversion. Dito sa dulo ng penstock, the water is directed into the turbine, which is basically a sophisticated water wheel with curved blades. The force of the falling water is directly hitting the turbine's blades, forcing the whole turbine to speed rapidly. With this rotation, our kinetic energy is now converted into mechanical energy. Makikita nyo na ang turbine ay naka-attach sa isang matibay na metal rod, ang shaft, which extends all the way up into the generator. So naturally, as the turbine spins, the shaft spins with it, carrying that mechanical power upward. Now we're in the power operation. Inside the powerhouse, this upper part is what we call the generator. Remember how we said energy is converted? The spinning shaft provides the rotational motion for the generator. Inside, massive electromagnets and coils of copper wire interact, spinning past each other. This physical movement is what finally creates an electrical current. The mechanical energy is now transformed into electrical energy. Ngayon, ang kuryenteng nagagawa ng generator ay hindi pa ready for long-distance travel just like other previous power plants. This is being stepped up using a transformer. Notice the blue dots showing the path. The transformer's job is to step up or boost the voltage of that electricity, making it strong enough to travel over vast distances through the power lines. At mula sa transformer, mapupunta na ito sa transmission lines or the power towers, ready to be delivered to our cities. Now, we may ask, ano naman ang nangyayari sa tubig pagkatapos niyang paikutin ang turbine? Let's look at the draft tube. We all know that pagkatapos ng turbine, ang kuryente ay nag-generate na. So those use water enters the draft tube, which is a specialized chamber that slows the water down and stabilizes the flow. Notice the green turbine icon with the water flow detail on the bottom left. From the draft tube, it flows peacefully back out to the river through the outflow. This is why we call it renewable energy. We simply borrow the energy of the water's fall without consuming or polluting the water itself. Pero bago tayo matapos, notice these two features. On top of the dam is the spillway. Ito ang safety feature for periods of heavy rain or flooding. If the reservoir becomes too full, the spillway acts like an emergency overflow, releasing excess water to prevent it from going over the main dam structure. Finally, we have the fish ladder. We cannot forget about the environment. Since the dam is a massive barrier, it blocks natural fish migration. The fish ladder is a series of step pools that allow fish to navigate around the dam and continue their migration safely. So there you have it, from potential energy in the reservoir to electrical energy powering our lives. That's how the hydroelectric power plant operates. Thank you.
Building a hydroelectric dam is a massive labor-intensive civil engineering undertaking. The initial phase requires the complete diversion of the waterway. Engineers construct temporary cofferdams or diversion tunnels to bypass the river and establish a dry workable construction zone. Once the site is dry, foundation preparation begins. The riverbed is excavated down to the solid bedrock. If geological assessment reveal weaknesses, the site must be reinforced. Engineers utilize rock bolts and heavy-duty netting to establish the foundation and the adjacent canyon walls, ensuring the bedrock will not fail under the immense future load of the dam and reservoir. The structural build involves setting forms and rebar, followed by specialized concrete pouring, because curing concrete generates significant heat known as heat of hydration. It is not poured continuously. Doing so would cause catastrophic thermal cracking. Instead, it is pumped in discrete, interlocking block section. Once the structure reaches operational maturity, the diversion tunnels are sealed and the reservoir is filled under strictly monitored conditions to track structural settlement. Proceeding to the next slide, we examine the three primary architectural design for concrete dams. The selected design is dedicated by the site topography and geological constraints. Proceeding 1. Solid gravity dam. This design utilizes its own massive dead weight to counteract the hydrostatic pressure of the water. Its heavy triangular cross-section ensures the structure will not slide or overturn. It is straightforward but requires an enormous volume of concrete. 2. Arc dam. This is highly efficient. It curves upstream, allowing the hydrostatic pressure of the water to actively compress the arc. This transfers the structural load laterally into the canyon walls or abutments. This geometry requires significantly less material than a gravity dam, but it is strictly requires geologically sound rock walls to support the transfer force. 3. Buttress Dam. This design features an inclined upstream face supported by a series of vertical triangular walls. The buttresses on the downstream side, it optimizes material usage while utilizing the downward gravitational force of the water on the angled face to keep the dam firmly anchored to its foundation. The final slide presents a detailed engineering cross-section. It highlights that a dam is an active infrastructure asset, not a solid monolith. Within the concrete matrix, you can observe a network of internal corridors. These are inspection galleries, which are critical for structural health monitoring. Engineers use these shafts to measure internal stress, assess water seepage, and perform ongoing maintenance from inside the dam. Centrally located is penstock, the primary conduit for water flow. The elevation, tapering, and angle of this tunnel are precisely engineered. It accelerates and directs high-pressure water from reservoir down to the powerhouse turbines. The numerous measurement lines on this schematic emphasize the strict tolerance required to manage extreme fluid dynamics while preserving the integrity of the surrounding concrete. The development of hydroelectric facility integrates rigorous geological surveying, thermal management, and strategic structural design. These structures are engineered to safely hold back immense hydrostatic force while efficiently converting potential energy into reliable electrical power.
Good day everyone! Ngayong araw, hihimay natin kung paano nga ba nalalaman ang dami ng kuryente na kaya i-produce ng isang hydropower plant. Simple lang ang konsepto. Nakadepende ito sa dalawang pangunahing factor o sangkap. Ang una ay how far the water falls o kung gaano kataas ang pinanghulugan ng tubig. Isipin nyo, habang mas mataas ang dam, mas malayo ang lalakbayin ng tubig pababa. Kaya mas malakas ang buhos at enerhiya nito pagtama sa turbine. Sa siyensya, tinatawag natin itong directly proportional. Ibig sabihin, kapag dinouble mo ang taas ng pinaghulugan ng tubig, madodoble rin ang enerhiya makukuha natin. Ang ikalawang factor naman ay ang amount of water falling o ang dami ng tubig na dumadaloy. Hindi lang kasi sapat na malakas ang pinapanggalingan. Kailangan din na marami ang tubig na tumutulak sa ating mga turbine. Ang dami ng kuryente ay nakadepende sa laki ng ilog o dam. Kung mas malaki at mas malakas ang agos ng ilog, mas marami ang power na malilikha nito. Katulad ng taas, directly proportional din ito. Kung ang isang ilog ay may dobleng dami ng tubig kumpara sa isa pang ilog, asahan niyong doble rin ang kuryenteng kayang ibigay nito sa atin. Sa madaling salita, ang sikreto ng mas malakas na hydropower ay kombinasyon ng matayog na bagsak at sagana. At para maging efficient ang hydropower plant, kailangan natin ng dalawang bagay, matayog na dam at malaking volume ng tubig. Kapag pinagsama mo ang dalawang yan, mas sigurado natin na sapat na supply ng kuryente para sa lahat. Sa kasalukuyan, ang may hawak ng titulo pinakamataas na dam sa buong mundo ay ang Norek Dam na matatagpuan sa Bass River sa Tajikistan. Isipin nyo, ang taas ito ay umaabot sa 984 feet o 300 meters, halos kasing taas na isang giganteng skyscraper. Dahil sa sobrang taas nito, napakatindi ng pressure ng tubig na nagmumula rito, kaya naman napakalakas din ng kuryenteng kayang nitong i-produce. Hindi rin naman papahuli ang sikat na Hoover Dam, bagamat mas mababa ito sa Norek Dam na may taas na 726.4 feet o mahigit 221 meters na nanatili pa rin itong world class. Hanggang ngayon, pasok pa rin ang Hoover Dam sa top 20 ng pinakamataas na dam sa buong mundo pagdating sa kategorya ng mga concrete gravity at arc dam. Ang mga istrukturang ito ay hindi lang basta pader na pangharang ng tubig Sila ang mga higanteng makina na gumagamit ng taas at gravity para bigyan tayo ng malinis na enerhiya. Kaya sa susunod na makikita kayo ng dam, tandaan nyo, habang mas matayog, mas malakas ang kuryenteng hatid nito sa atin.
Now let's move on to the dam failures. So in this part, we will discuss the 3 dam failures. First one, we have the Banqiao Dam failure. This is located in Henan, China, and occurred in 1975. In this dam failure, the 26,000 deaths are recorded as primary or due to the mismong pagragasa ng flood na yun. Then, subsequent death due to the effect of the flood or the mismong failure ng dam, which is yung pamine and epidemics or yung malawakang epekto nun. Nakapagtala naman ng 145,000 deaths. And also, during this dam failure, nagkaroon ng loss of generation. Kasi nga, nawalan na ng kakayahan yung mismong dam na yon para mag-supply ng electricity or makapag-provide ng electricity sa community niya. Then, next one, we have the information indicated in the Banqiao incident, which is yung 1 in 2,000 year flood. So, hindi ibig sabihin nito na sa kada 2,000 years, isa lang yung possible na isa lang yung maging flood. Ang ibig sabihin lang nito is 0.05% chance na magkakaroon ng flood due to yung mismong present ng dam na yun. So, parang yung magiging primary source ng flood na yun is yung dam na yun. Ang chance lang niya is 0.05%. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng 1 in 2,000 year flood. And then next one, we have the Machu Dam failure in India. So this flood or mismong dam failure is a primary reason for deluge of the city of Morbi and other rural areas. During this dam failure, there is a estimated of 1,800 to 25,000 people or deaths of people. So, ibig sabihin, namatay yung estimation na 1,800 to 25,000 people. Then, next one, we have the dam failure that occurred in United States, which is yung Oroville Dam failure. This is specifically located in California and occurred during the 21st century or the 2017 to be exact. So during this dam failure, ang pinaka naging primary reason kung bakit nagkaroon ng failure is yung damage sa spillway or yung pinaka parang siya yung nagko-control sana sa volume ng water na aagos lang or lalabas sa mismong dam. So yung pinaka-path na yun or yung tinatawag natin na spillway na yun, nagkaroon siya ng damage leading to the failure or destruction of the dam. So, dahil nagkaroon ng failure yun, ang naging epekto nito is nagkaroon ng evacuation ng 180,000 people. So, napakalawak din nun kasi 180,000 people yun. So, nagkaroon ng interruption due to the dam failure din. So, ang naging lang nito, ang essence kasi ng part nito is that yung pagkakaroon ng dam failure is talagang nakaka-apekto sa buhay or sa mismong community na nakapaligid sa dam na yun. Yung mga design, yung pagkontrol sa mga limit, and as well as the effect of extreme weather condition to the dam capacity. So, sa engineering context, yun yung mga bagay na kailangan or as much as possible ma-minimize natin so that we can avoid or prevent such destruction. Thank you.